The regular meeting of City Council for Monday, May 9th to order. And we need at this time, we're moving into our closed meeting because we have some information we need to deal with. And so at this time, I need a motion to move to close. Please, Councillor Dober, Councillor Kemp. All those in favor? Opposed? Oh, we're not voting. Sorry, we're going to, because we have Councillor Parslow and Councillor Wilbur on the phone and the inability for us to be able to coordinate that voting electronically, we're going to vote manually today. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Good morning. We'll call ourselves back to order on our regular meeting of City Council for May 9th. And our first order of business this morning is our delegations, and we have Chelsea is in the building this morning for our first proclamation. And so Chelsea, you want to come up? Good morning.
Good morning.
Nice to have you here this morning. And so our first proclamation this morning is a Move for Health Day, and so it's my pleasure to be able to read this proclamation. Whereas the World Health Organization has selected Move for Health Day to be observed around the globe on May 10th every year. And whereas physical activity affects the lives of all people in Canada and around the world. And whereas compelling scientific evidence has demonstrated that physical activity plays a key role in promoting optimal health and deployment in children, development in children and youth, and in preventing disease, disability, and premature death in everyone. And whereas 2/3 of Canadians are not active enough to benefit their health, and whereas there is virtually no human condition that cannot be improved by increased physical activity, and whereas physical activity builds and maintains a healthy body and promotes well-being and decreases feelings of anxiety and depression, and whereas Canada's Physical Activity Guide recommends that everyone accumulate 30 to 60 minutes of moderate physical activity most or preferably all days of the week. And whereas Move for Health Day provides an opportunity to focus local, national, and international attention on the necessity and benefits of physical activity. And whereas the federal and provincial territorial governments have recognized that physical inactivity is a major health concern in Canada, and that individual, community, national, and global collaboration is essential to educating and raising awareness of physical activity, hence promoting Move for Health Day. Now, therefore, I do hereby proclaim May 10th, 2022 as Move for Health Day in Dawson Creek. That was a workout. I got my 10 in today. You can clap if you like. Sure. Clapping back aloud. The screens are down. I'll clap there. There you go.
Perfect, wonderful. So we have free prize packs over at the Kenworth Aquatic Center, courtesy of Good Iron, as well as Deep Physio, and then of course the City of Dawson. So go to the pool. You guys can go for a swim with your family, do the walking track, and put your name into the draw. The draw is only for at
May 10th.
May 10th.
Thank you, Chelsea.
Yes.
And Chelsea is also here this morning for our second proclamation, which is May 10th is National Denim Day for Breast Cancer.
It is.
Thank you. So we'll read the proclamation. Whereas breast cancer is the most frequently diagnosed cancer in Canadian women, it can be completely cured if caught in time. And whereas it is estimated that 27,400 Canadian women were diagnosed with breast cancer in 2020, this represents 25% of all new cancer cases, and 240 were men. And whereas 5,100 women will die of this disease in 2020, 13% of all cancer deaths. And whereas women younger than 35 tend to be diagnosed with more aggressive, higher grade tumors, they are often more advanced in diagnosis. And whereas 1 in 8 women will develop breast cancer in their lifetime, and 1 in 31 will die from it. And whereas by proclaiming Tuesday, May 10th, 2022, National Denim Day, the City of Dawson Creek assists the Cure Foundation for Breast Cancer in raising awareness about the seriousness of this women's disease. Now, therefore, I hereby proclaim Tuesday, May 10th, 2022 to be known as National Denim Day, and ask our citizens to recognize this day as National Denim Day in Dawson Creek. such a really important message. I think each and every one of us would cut off our right arm to be able to resolve and cure this disease that affects so many women. And so, Chelsea, thank you so much for this, and we appreciate the initiative. Thank you.
Thank you. And so we are doing a fundraiser, of course, downstairs. We are selling ribbons for $5. Wear your jeans tomorrow, come see me, and all the proceeds will go to the care.
There's my forward. Thank you, Chelsea.
Thank you.
Our next delegation this morning is Dale Rose and Jaron Neufeld from Sander Bose Bone Grandel, our city auditors, in attendance regarding our 2021 audited financial statements. Good morning, Jaron. Welcome.
Morning, Mr. Mayor. How are you today?
Good, thank you.
Good. Dale does send his regrets. He's feeling under the weather, so you guys get to listen to my dulcet tones today reading through the auditor's reports. So thanks for having me here today. My name is Jaron Neufeld, and I'm the audit partner on your guys' engagement. If you turn to page 2 of your guys' financial statement package there, you will see our independent auditor's report. It is addressed to the mayor and council of the corporation of the city of Dawson Creek, and it states that we've audited the company consolidated financial statements of the corporation of the city of Dawson Creek, which comprises the consolidated statement of financial position as at December 31st, 2021, and the consolidated statement of operations and changes in surplus, changes in net assets and cash flows for the year then ended, and a summary of significant accounting policies and other explanatory information. In our opinion, the accompanying consolidated financial statements present fairly, in all material respects, the financial position of the corporation of the city of Dawson Creek as at December 31st, 2021, and the results of its operations and its cash flows for the year then ended in accordance with public sector accounting standards. Management is responsible for the preparation and fair presentation of the consolidated financial statements in accordance with public sector accounting standards, and for such internal control as management determines is necessary to enable the preparation of the consolidated financial statements that are free from material misstatement, whether due to fraud or error. As auditors, our objective is to obtain reasonable assurance about whether the consolidated financial statements as a whole are free from material misstatement. And our audit was performed in accordance with Canadian generally accepted auditing standards, which require that we exercise professional judgment and maintain professional skepticism throughout the audit. We also identify and assess the risk of a material misstatement. We obtain an understanding of the internal controls relevant to the audit in order to design audit procedures. We evaluate the appropriateness of accounting policies used and the reasonableness of accounting estimates. We conclude on the appropriateness of management's use of the going concern. We evaluate the overall presentation, structure, and content of the consolidated financial statements. Finally, we communicate with those charged with governance, yourselves, regarding, among other matters, the planned scope and timing of the audit and significant audit findings, including any significant deficiencies in internal control that we identified during our audit. So, in other words, another clean auditor's report this year. So,
Thank you so much, Jaron. Council, any questions? I would just add a couple of points. Obviously, first of all, thank you guys for the work, as always, and the receipt of a clean audited financial report in terms of free of those material misstatements is what we always hope would be the objective end result when we have the external audit completed on behalf of the city. A couple of things that really jumped out for me in terms of our financial position these days, and one of them was the really strong position that seems to be evident within our accumulated surplus in terms of a really positive change in direction. The other one I remember last year when we had for the first time, and I remember our CFO at the time, Flavia, talking about we had moved to a net positive financial position in the city in terms of otherwise our assets had now exceeded or had exceeded our liabilities by, I think it was at $3 million or $4 million, and now this year I think it was around 11 or $12 million when I remember. So I think that just is really evident about the work that this council has taken on over the last number of years in terms of moving us into a really stronger, much stronger financial position. I know that isn't within the auditors, but you guys see that. And to me, it was evident in our audited financial statements to me of how positive that is for our community.
Yes, definitely. I would agree with that statement, Dale. When you guys look at your financial statements, they're a strong surplus this year. I believe the number that you're referring to is the net financial assets, and yes, you guys have continued strengthening that position again this year. Last year was the first year that you were in a positive as opposed to a net debt of the prior years. So. And also would like to thank your financial team and Terry coming in halfway through the audit. Flavia was here for the interim, and Terry took over in January, December there. So really appreciate all her hard work ensuring that the audit went smoothly. It went really well. So thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Dober. Sorry. Yep, go ahead.
Thank you, Worship. Thanks, Jaren. This question might be more to staff. I just on page 12 of 39, it just under the revenue, the budget has 6.6 million for other revenue from own sources, but the actual was 845. Well, what's the main reason for that big of a discrepancy?
Sorry, Terry. I wasn't sure I was going to let you talk. I was thinking about it.
Through your worship. The reasoning for that is almost 6 million of the bridge was budgeted in other revenue sources, but it really should have been budgeted in government transfers. So we had just done an adjustment. We can't adjust the budget, but we put it in the correct.
And that's why like the budget for government was 18 million, but 25.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything further for Jaren? Obviously, we really appreciate the report today and having you come and give a presentation to council. And we're ecstatic with the financial position that we're moving towards, and that message to our community about a strong financial future is what it's about. And we appreciate you coming in this morning, Jaren. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And if you can pass on our appreciation to Dale and the whole team.
I will.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thanks, guys. Take care. Have a good one.
2.4 this morning, we have Jamie Maxwell in, the race director for the Dawson Creek Triathlon. Good morning. Sure. Jamie, we still do a little bit of a wipe down from those COVID days. And
Thank you very much.
good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome.
Yeah.
It's nice to have you here again.
Yeah. Since everyone else on the committee's at work, you always just get me. So, for those who are unaware, triathlon consists of swimming, cycling, and running in that order. The swimming portion may take place in a natural body of water if it's suitable and near good riding and running routes, but if necessary, the swim may take place in a pool. I always get asked when I talk about the Dawson Creek Triathlon, people go, "Where do you swim?" So we swim in a pool. A triathlon may be composed of various distances. Adult races may take place in an hour and a half, to as long as 12 to 15 hours for an Ironman distance event. The Dawson Creek Triathlon Committee is pleased to be planning for a 5th year. The date for this year's event is Sunday, July 17th, 2022. The Dawson Creek Triathlon has operated in 2016, 2017, 2018, and 2019. In 2020, we canceled due to the pandemic, and in 2021, we again had to adapt with the pandemic, and we offered a virtual event where athletes swam, cycled, and ran anywhere in BC, and were covered by the Triathlon BC insurance policy. Participants were offered a finisher's medal and a 50% off coupon on this year's event. In 2019, we had a very successful year with 100 athletes, a good announcer, a barbecue donated by sponsors and cooked by Rotary volunteers. The operational costs for this event are high, and we finished with $2,000 less in the bank than we started with. Fundraising has always been of high importance. The Dawson Creek Triathlon has always offered both adult, individual, or team events and a Kids of Steel event with levels of athletic work for youth governed by Triathlon Canada. Kids of Steel includes age groups 4 to 5, 6 to 7, 8 to 9, 10 to 11, 12 to 13, 14 to 15. Kids of Steel makes up a third of our athletes each year. We have had athletes as old as 70 plus. I would class our event as appropriate for athletes curious about the sport, as we offer 2 distances, the longest of which would be accomplished in as fast as an hour for Patrick Howell, to 2 hours and 34 minutes, to 30 minutes for a 64-year-old female. The Dawson Creek Triathlon is low risk for locals, as it takes place in a very nice pool, beautiful local roads. We cycle on the back road to Poos, including the trail subdivision hill, which is nastier than you think, and the pleasant, nature-filled Dawson Creek Trail. I believe I included with our delegation request the Tourism Dawson Creek report from 2019, which listed home communities. Athletes came from Cecil Lake, Cleardale, Dawson Creek, Fairview, Fort St. John, Grand Prairie, Hythe, the Municipal District of Greenview, Prince George, Peace River Regional District, Red Deer, Spirit River, Sylvan Lake, Vanderhoof, and Wanham. This shows that the Dawson Creek Triathlon is a truly regional event that attracts a small number of athletes from further away. The Fort St. John Triathlon collapsed some years ago, as did the Prince George event. I would theorize that a lack of volunteer support is to blame. The 3 events that remain are Fort Nelson, Grand Prairie, and Dawson Creek Triathlons. On the advice of Kathleen Connolly, the Dawson Creek Triathlon became an association in February 2022. While there is much grant funding for capital funding, the hunt for operational funds is difficult. We have repeatedly failed at applying for the Peace River Regional Grant in Aid, mostly due to not understanding requirements. Our one BC Gaming grant application was refused because we were an event and not a program. In order to explain why our event has just under $9,000 in operating costs, I would like to list the major ones. We employ a local traffic management contractor to get on and off the highway safely. We rent a state-of-the-art chip timing system expected by today's athletes. We pay a nonprofit rate at the pool. We order T-shirts for as many athletes as possible and pay wages for an emergency first aid contractor. The good news is that the Dawson Creek Triathlon Association is the recipient of a $2,000 grant from BC Fairs Festival and Events Recovery Fund. We received local sponsorship funds in 2021 which have remained in reserve. I feel it is important to relaunch the event, even if registrations are low and we lose money. Only by having a public profile can a yearly event, an event that only occurs once a year, remain in the minds of the public. The next hurdle will be to find out if we can again secure 30 to 40 volunteers for race day. Any questions?
Thank you, Jamie. Council?
Yes, I have one.
Go ahead, Councillor Parslow.
Yeah, thank you, Jamie, for your report. It seems to me from your description that you, as you're an association and you have an annual event, that you would be eligible for the NDIT grant, which supports annual events such as yours. I think the grant, I'm going from memory here, is $2,500. Are you aware of that grant? If not, I can certainly help you put it together.
I have asked repeatedly if we're eligible for NDIT, and the reason our event is not eligible, I can't remember. It was something about it wasn't a cultural event. I think that's the reason. It was because we were sporting, because we were recreational, we weren't eligible. I've asked many times from NDIT, even after we became an association. So that's where I am right now.
Okay, just a comment. I would like to pursue this because I'm so glad that that wonderful event we have, the Cruisers event, I believe they get it, and that is I mean, it's part of the culture of our community by that, and so is what you're doing. I just don't understand that distinction.
Okay. Thank you.
So, Jamie, through staff, they'll give you my contact because I really like to pursue this. Thank you.
Good.
Thank you, Councillor Parslow.
The Peace River Regional Grant and Aid is so comical. It was only out this year I applied, or last, and it was only after it was the Facebook Live stuff, and I was working at the same time, and really the document that shows our home community shows that it's a regional event, but I didn't submit it. Because I didn't understand that this requirement that the event be regional in nature. So if you fail once or twice, maybe the third or fourth time you're going to be successful. So I'll be back there at Peace River Regional District, fighting for funds next year, of course, or this spring or whenever it is.
Councillor Dober, or who's next? Oh, sorry, Councillor Dober.
Thank you, Worship. Thank you, Mr. Maxwell. It feels weird calling you by your first name since 20 plus years ago.
Oh, I agree. Yeah.
Come to the office, Dober.
Yeah. I spent some time in the hall. Thank you for your report and for putting this on for our community. I think it's definitely a benefit for our community and for fitness and everything. So thankful that you do that and everybody that volunteers for it. I was just going through the report. Is there like an ask specific that you're looking for, or was it just the company?
I think really, I was talking to Tiffany because we're going through this new process where Recreation has the form that I fill out. And then I said to Tiffany, what about, the parking lots and the barricades? Oh, she said, you haven't gone to council yet. And okay, I have to go so my ask is really the parking lot, it's the same document every year. Those of you who've been here, it's copied and pasted every year. So really, the Kenborick parking lot is a no-go zone for traffic. It's a safe place for athletes and youth. And then we use the soccer parking lot as part of the Kids of Steel cycle route, and learned our lessons. No gravel for kids on bikes. And so they go out and through the parking lot and then a right on 116th to the end of the pavement. And I have a volunteer there with a barricade and a sign said, turn around. And so that's anyway, so the soccer parking lot is a no-go zone. It's closed, And then we're really, I have this year, I tried to submit my road closures with these terrible photocopies, and Tiffany actually came back and said, they can't read your maps. And then so I went back to Pierre in mapping, and I said, Pierre, I just need one of our maps that already exists, modified a little bit. And he made a really nice road closures map that we submitted, so there's a bit more logical. But anyway, trying to close traffic on 116th as much as possible. Yeah. So, but I mean, somebody who's desperate could still use the road. We're just going to tell them not to run over kids. Yeah. So, and then barricades. Okay. And I would imagine barricades are getting more expensive because staff at the city have said, the barricades disappear. They float away, they get taken, replacing them must cost money, because now that lumber's gone up and stuff, and the labor to produce them. Well, we're big users of barricades.
Okay. Thank you.
The ask really doesn't have much more in it,
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Earl?
Thank you, Your Worship. And my question is somewhat related to Councillor Dober. I was in looking at the package we received that has the event postmortem and then the piece from tourism around the 2019 numbers. I was wondering if there was more information in there that hadn't been included, because that's all I see. But based on what you've described here, tentatively, I think it's perfectly reasonable. I did want to take the opportunity to thank you guys. I know in 2019 you were gaining some momentum on your event, and then to have it completely scuttled for 2 years has got to be disheartening. So to see you back at it is great, and we're really happy to see that. I was just wondering if we were maybe missing a piece, or we're waiting for some paperwork to come through that would include the details of the ask, because that's one thing I don't have.
Did you guys not get the?
In the agenda package I've just got the event postmortem and the numbers from
no,
2019.
there was an ask.
Okay, good.
No, yeah, there was 2 documents submitted, and I imagine staff, but they were 2 different formats. Like one was a PDF and one was a Word document. So they didn't get. So really, my ask didn't get forwarded.
Well, we'll sort it out. I'm sure. Sure,
yeah.
there's something, but yeah, that was just. I was worried as you were speaking and describing to Councillor Dober that I was missing some context, but not your problem. We might have crossed wires.
No, that's an internal matter.
Thank you.
I did submit the ask, and then I thought, the point about regional is important,
Yeah.
I have been in conversation with a woman in Grand Prairie, Tracy Gillis, Recreation Dryland Coordinator. She's a city employee, and then I'm actually gonna rent our bike racks to her. They actually moved their event. Their event was the same day as ours, and then I contacted her and said, you know what? I'm kind of locked in where I am because I'm sort of in between dates at the pool because of seals. And she was really nice. She moved hers to the weekend before. So we're going to sort of cooperate and try and cross-promote a little bit. She might come here and volunteer.
Good stuff.
So parting comment, if you know anybody who's not racing, they could always volunteer.
Excellent.
And then, so we really depend on a captain model. I really need a run captain, a cycle captain, that kind of thing, where they go, you 4 volunteers, you're doing this. And it's delegation. It's about delegation. And we're a little short on captains at the moment. We have 1 new executive member, and that's wonderful, but he's going to learn the timing system this year. So anyway.
Awesome.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I've actually
Amy
got
takes care of that stuff.
Or
Amy does that stuff.
Shantae?
Damon, before you leave, just through your worship, so that's our department. So what you normally would like is about, I believe it's 30 barricades, and you also normally take some garbage cans, and normally what happens is the city drops those off, and then you guys set those up. That is what your ask normally is.
So if the city's able to drop them off during working hours, that's fine. If they can't, I can always go get them, but I don't want to.
Yeah. So the ask for council would be for the staff to drop them off.
Yeah.
The barricades and that. So I believe it's 20 to 30 barricades. That's what you would normally request. And I think there's about 6 garbage cans that you ask for as well.
Good.
So within that ask, that's what he would be asking for, so that we'll make sure, go back and look at with Tiffany and see what the request was.
We'll have you guys then coordinate that with Jamie. Council will deal with that request. Thank you.
And then the number of barricades is in my application with Tiffany.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good. Thank you.
Thanks for your time,
Thanks,
folks.
Jamie. Thank you again. Good job.
See you later.
2.5, our next delegation, and we just have Councillor Wilbur, I believe, is going to sign off.
Yes, thank you. I'm claiming conflict.
Thank you.
So, I don't know if Kathleen has approached the credit union as well about our parking lot for an event related to it, so I don't know if this would be.
No.
I'm not ultimately the decision.
Yeah.
maker, so.
It doesn't put you in,
Okay.
so our next delegation, everybody's out of conflict, everybody's out. No, Kathleen Connolly is our next delegation. Good morning, Kathleen,
Good
from the
morning,
Dawson
Mr.
Creek and
Mayor.
District Chamber of Commerce, our CEO, and got some requests in regards to the exhibition. Good morning, welcome.
Good morning, and
Nice to
thank
have you here.
It's great to see you all. Councillor Javetkov, thank you for a wonderful lobster fest. I haven't had so much fun in ages, so thank you to you and the Oilmans for doing that. It was a great event. So this morning I come to you, as you see, we're looking to and really excited to do something in the downtown core to support the 100th anniversary of the Fall Fair and exhibition. And so our intention is to close down a part of the downtown core in order to create that opportunity for celebration. So I have been working with Tiffany and Aaron, and I must thank them. I have no idea what I'm doing. So they've been really helpful in getting me through the process, and I'm sure there's much more work to be done. Essentially, the idea is, and we're really hoping to bring this back. Apparently, before my time, this was a common function. The downtown core was shut down to celebrate Fall Fair. So we're hoping to bring this back on more of an annual event, but this year we're looking for support from the city around just that closure. So barricades, some potentially electrical, and some of those other needs that Aaron and Tiffany have talked about. We have reached out to community partners just to fill in the blanks. So we're looking for 10th Street from Alaska to I think about 104th. And so Shaylee and I, who's been really thankful, really helpful, so thanks Shaylee for that, have looked at putting together a series of different events to support that closure. So Clay at the Post and Row will do live music and a beer garden. We've reached out to the credit union and the car clubs to do a mini car show in the credit union parking lot. We've reached out to Tim and his crew at Core Lanes. I don't know if y'all know they have a signature beer out now, which is super cool. So we thought maybe they could do a barbecue and their signature beer in their parking lot. So they're working on that. We've reached out to the Peace River Regional District who would do a morning pancake breakfast. The Exhibition Association has been kind enough to donate the supplies for that breakfast. And then later in the morning, early afternoon, we would do, Cap has offered to do a barbecue with us. We've got some chuck wagons that potentially will go into Charles' lot. He's offered that to us. Northern Mat and Bridge has offered to bring in some rig matting to make sure that the area is safe. K-PAC has offered to do a children's movie between 1 and 3 that afternoon. And Ed, of course, has offered his space at Bing's if we need it. So it's a combination of private property and then the closure. So our request for the city is from 9 a.m. to noon to have this street closed down. And then some of those more private events would continue potentially till 3. So that's sort of where we're asked with the ask. So we've had a really strong support from the community around it. The other thing I should probably mention is that the Chamber is actually building a registration page off of our Keep Calm and Shop On website for registration for the parade. So people will register for the parade through us. And then we'll have another page dedicated to registration for this event, should it be approved. The intention of that is, number one, so we know who is doing what. And then the second part of that is sort of a rules that would go back to them outlining if they're doing a barbecue or they're doing something, it needs to meet city bylaws as well as any provincial health regulations or anything of that nature. So making sure that everybody's very clear on the rules. And then the other thing that Shaylee and I are looking at partnering on is offering free window painting for businesses who might want to decorate and sort of get their staff to start dressing up and supporting the Fall Fair. Tourism Dawson Creek, we're working with Dustin and his crew on some sort of coupon book that would be handed out not only during that event, but at the on-site, on the exhibition ground sites as well. And then, of course, any directions that they could give for out-of-town people to the fairground or to those events that are happening through the week. So trying to really work with all of our other partners to make sure it's a safe and fun few hours. So that is our request to you, is help around the barricades, the closure, any electrical requirements. And Shantae just mentioned garbage cans, and so that's probably something that we might want to ask for some help around as well. So
Good.
That's
Cool.
the ask.
Thank you, Kathleen. Questions, Council? 10th Street, so from Alaska Avenue, 10th Street to 104th, 9 to noon.
Yep.
And the barricades and stuff. The beer gardens, it'll start right at 9 in the morning, so I can be there right at, no, I'm kidding, I'm teasing you.
We'll have one waiting for you. So like the triathlon, when you run by, we'll just have that beer waiting for you.
Kathleen, the landlocked businesses on their hub, Faking Sanity, the rest of them got access on the other side. Have you talked to them? Has there been any engagement with them? Do you know?
So we sort of have had some informal conversations, but on my side, I've been a bit hesitant to do that because there is a level of excitement for this, and I didn't want businesses planning and then not be able to go through it. But the only, I have heard some concerns about making sure that there's access for walking, so for people to move, because they'll still be able to park on 102nd, they'll still be able to park all around that. So it was mostly around making sure people could still access those businesses during those hours.
Yeah, I think that's would be my only question would be is those businesses that have got no other access, just
Right.
the ones the only ones I can think of would be the ones in between
Yeah.
102nd and 103rd. Or are you going, oh no, you're going to 104th. So you need to have a couple, anyway, so we'll address that.
Yeah,
so.
I appreciate that, and that's certainly something that we can reach out to if that's something you want me to follow up on. Happy to do that. Absolutely.
Well, Blair?
Just a quick question through you, Your Worship, and thank you for the presentation.
Hi, Blair.
This is for August 12th?
Correct.
Okay,
It-
for the day of the parade. The parade route is encompassed in here as it comes by the Mile Zero post, so that's all been
Yeah,
dealt
so
with.
the intention, so I've chatted with Joe about it. He's, of course, Joe Judge,
Yeah.
sorry, with the Rotary. Joe is super excited about this. And then working with your team downstairs, the intention would be that as the parade passes and once the cleaners are done, then those barricades would come up and it would be closed, but it would ensure that the parade was through, that all the street cleanup had been done, and then we would have folks move in, but not before that was done, of course. Yeah, we need to respect those other partners that are doing their important work as well. Thanks, Blair.
So just for clarification, the closure is just for that one day?
From 9 a.m. till noon.
Just that day?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
just that day.
Okay.
One day, the
Cool.
12th. Thank you for
Thank you.
clarifying that, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anything further from council?
Please, please prove it. It's just so exciting. Thank you so much.
Begging,
I wish you all a
and
great
pleading
day.
sometimes works.
Whatever it takes. Thank you
Thanks,
all
Kathleen.
so much. Have a great
Thank you.
day.
We'll deal with it. We deal with the request later on under mayor's business.
Sure. Thanks, Blair.
Thank you. So our next item is a late item, and we do have one late item, so if I could have a motion that we approve the support of the late item. Councillor Dober, second. Councillor Kemp. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Brenda?
We will need to get Councillor Wilbur back on the line.
Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot that, yeah. Everybody's got the late item as well, I think. Good. I originally thought that was for the whole week, that they were planning events for the whole week.
Well, I was confused too because the other one said, for the pancake, I don't even know what they're asking for besides they're donating. So I was kind of, I called Kathleen to find out, but I was confused by the whole thing.
There was at one point a discussion on the week.
Oh, okay.
Maybe great for.
Yeah, no, it's. Yeah. Remember the old times when it was so crazy down there, right? In terms of all the activity of stuff going on and
We used to
decorate
It used to be like
the
the contest
yeah,
about decorating.
bonanza days and yeah. Have we got Shaylee back? Okay.
Unless more participants join, this conference will end in 5 minutes. Enter *1 to cancel and continue the conference.
Thank you. Have we got you, Councillor Wilbur?
Councillor Parslow, are you there?
Welcome to TELUS Conference. tone, please state your name followed by the number sign.
City of Dawson Creek.
Thank you. Announcing participant.
City of Dawson Creek.
I can hear you.
Oh, good. Thank you, Shaylee. Councillor Wilbur. And is Councillor Parslow?
I'm here.
Oh, good.
Just
Thank
go
you.
to-
We'll
go back in.
we'll go back in. So we have one late item that we've been brought forward. So if I can have a motion to approve that late item, move Councillor Kemp, second Councillor Earl. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. And the Councillor Wilbur and Councillor Parslow have the late item?
Yes.
Yes, good. Thank you. And so it's a late item requesting a letter of support from the Campus Kids Daycare Society, applying for some funding and have asked us to provide a letter of support. And so I would ask Council for a motion. Councillor Kemp, move that we provide a letter of support, seconded by Councillor Earl. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you. New councillor business. Anyone? Minutes. Sorry, Councillor. I'm sorry, Councillor Earl. Councillor Kemp, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. I just wanted to take a moment, actually, to maybe just give a shout out to my son, Hunter Kropp, and his bowling partner, Caleb Waller. They've been competing with the BC Bantam boys. They went to regionals in Prince George recently and got gold. Then they went off to provincials down in Surrey for the weekend of April 30th. They got gold. So they now are headed to nationals in Oshawa, Ontario to represent not only the province, but also Dawson Creek. So they'll be heading there July 10th to 13th. Such a good accomplishment for 11-year-old boys to represent not only the province, but Dawson Creek. So I'm excited to go watch them and wish them the best of luck.
Congratulations. I saw the announcement and it's on my list of to-dos this week. We're going to invite them in to make sure we send them off with a little swag and congratulations on behalf of the city. Thank you. Councillor Earl?
Thank you, Your Worship. I just want to report back to you as you asked me to fill in for you at the hospital last week at the welcome to the new physicians that are in our community. And it was a great opportunity to touch base with our local physicians around what they've got going on, what their plans are. We do have, I think, 4 new physicians since New Year, February. One was a surgeon, an ER doc, an OBGYN. So welcome to them. Certainly it was, as I said, great to talk about what we as a city can do to help facilitate further recruitment and retention and to know what to expect throughout the years. They've got some more coming in. So thank you for the opportunity and just wanted to report back on that. And secondly, a reminder to members of the public. I know, Your Worship, you're representing the city at the event either today or tomorrow morning, but the Electoral Boundaries Commission is in town doing 2 meetings in Dawson Creek, one this evening at 7:30 and one tomorrow morning beginning at 8:30 at the GDI. We've mentioned it before, but just to review, it is paramount that the citizens of the South Peace have their voice be heard and encourage the committee not to consolidate, or I guess in my opinion, it is paramount. But certainly there is the potential there for us to lose representation, as I see it, in the province. So I would encourage all the residents throughout the region to who are able to make it. If you can't make it in person, there is also an opportunity to provide public input that'll be accepted until May 31st. And you can provide that at bcebc.ca.
Thank you, Councillor Earl, and thank you for attending that last week at a short notice. I appreciate your willingness to attend. And now we go on to adoption of the minutes. 5.1, we have the minutes of the public consultation session, April 25th for adoption. Move, Councillor Earl, second Councillor Dober. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Minutes of the public hearing held April 25th for adoption. Move Councillor Dober, second Councillor Kemp. All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you. And the minutes of our regular meeting of council of April 25th for adoption. Move, Councillor Dober. Second, Councillor Kemp. All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you, everyone. Is there any business arising out of those minutes? Councillor Kemp, thank you for sitting in while I was away, and I appreciate that. Correspondence, we have a memo from the corporate officer regarding the South Peace Building Learning Together Society and a request. And they have a request, two things in their request, that we have a council representative assigned to it as well as to the OCP. And so I think the two things that we want to ensure that certainly they've got the work underway to build the Child Care Action Plan. Adding it into a already approved official community plan, it takes a bit of work in terms of getting that OCP done. And when and is it appropriate, I guess, if a council starts to consider changes to the OCP? If I could ask administration for our views on that request in terms of how that would be accomplished. Blair?
Thank you, and through you, Your Worship. That would be a council decision under the OCP whether they felt that would fit within our official community plan. I would suggest that that consideration would not take place until well after the development of such work is completed, at which point the council of the day could entertain that. It might be somewhat unusual historically, but the world is changing. But
yeah.
It is a significant, our OCP is a significant document, very important to not just the city and council, but to everyone that lives here. So.
Yeah, and I agree. I think the amount of work that goes into building the OCP in terms of how much it takes, and I'm certainly not adverse to the thought of having that consideration, but I agree. I think the development of the Child Care Action Plan then be brought forward through to the community to be able to then, does it a document that they want to, initiative that they want to consider within the OCP. So maybe if we could have at this point the motion that, and I talked to Councillor Kemp, who's agreed to take on this as a city's representative, that we move that motion, and then we'll respond back to the group that once that development occurs, that we will then bring that forward in terms of to the council for consideration of inclusion into the OCP. Brenda? And so we have the motion that we have to that was deferred that we have to deal with then. And so what portions of that do we need to deal with now, Brenda?
Through your worship, there is the recommendation number 1 would be the option that you're speaking about.
Okay. And so that's what we need to do.
That's the motion that would be required.
So the motion 7.31 from the April 25th, 2022 meeting be withdrawn, and further that Councillor Kemp be appointed as the city's representative for the Dawson Creek and Area Child Care Action Plan. So I need that motion. Councillor Earl, second. Councillor Dober, discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. And we'll communicate back that once that's developed, we'll have that further discussion then in terms of the OCP consideration. Thank you, Council. 7.2, we have an email from Fern Hansen, President of the Dawson Creek Garden Society, requesting that the city supply the Garden Society a load of chips from the public work yard site. Do we have the ability to have were chips available to do this if Council approves it?
Through your worship, yes, we have a pile of chips. We went and checked to make sure that they would be sufficient to be able to be used.
Good. Thank you. Councillor Dober?
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll make a motion that we supply the Dawson Creek Garden Society a 3-ton truckload of chips from the Public Works yard site.
Thank you. Do you have a seconder? Councillor Kemp? Discussion? Go ahead, Councillor Dober.
Just one question. What is there? Do we just have these sitting there? Like, is there much of a cost to us besides an employee for an hour bringing the truck over?
Through your worship, we're actually wanting to get rid of them, so to store. So yes, it would cost the staffing and the equipment to drop them off. That would be the cost to the
But
city.
beneficial to us because we get rid of them. Yeah. Thank you.
So, thank you. And any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. And so if we are looking to get rid of them, is there a way we could put them up to our disposal site and offer them to the community if people wanted to come and access them and have them available and then dispose of them in that manner? Do you guys want to think about that? Thank you. I saw the three of you looking at each other. Thank you. Well, we move. No. Thank you, staff. 7.3, we have an email from Jennifer Moore, Business Resiliency Specialist for Northern BC Tourism, looking for a letter of support. Councillor Dober?
I'll make a motion that we send a letter of support for the BC Resilience Specialist, Northern BC Tourism Association.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Kemp. Did you want to speak to it, Darcy? I did speak to Jennifer last week on Thursday or Friday, and I think the province has allocated some funding toward Northern BC Tourism for tourism, and so I've asked her, we're going to set up a meeting to have some discussion about exactly that and implications for us and our tourism strategies and how we develop that. So Jennifer will be coming to meet, and we'll get together very shortly on that. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. 7.4, we have a letter from, Shaylee had a conflict on this as well. Councillor Wilbur, we're on 7.4. I think you had indicated you had a conflict on this as well.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Thank you. So 7.4, we have a letter from Connie Patterson, President of the Dawson Creek Exhibition Association, regarding the support for a planned breakfast on August 12th at the downtown core. Councillor Dober?
I know we can't ask questions, but it's saying a letter of support, but this is just saying they're donating this, so I'm not even sure what the ask is. Or what the letter of support, or what we need to approve.
Blair?
Through you, Your Worship, there is nothing to approve on this one. This is really the Chamber of Commerce is hosting the breakfast. This is showing a letter of support from the Exhibition Association itself for the event. Also laying out that they are willing to supply all of this, but that would be to the chamber. So I think there's always a concern when somebody wants to coordinate something around the fall fair, an exhibition that goes on, is that they're in communication with the Exhibition Association. This clearly shows that they've done their work and the Exhibition Association is supportive of that. So it is really a receipt
Just for information.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to receive for information.
Thank you, Councillor. Second, Councillor Earl. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. We'll give Shaylee a minute to come back on. What time is it?
Announcing participant,
Shaylee.
Thank you, Shaylee. Councillor Wilbur, we are now moving to item 8, reports. Report number 22038 from the Chief Financial Officer regarding the 2021 audited financial statements. And so we need a motion to receive the audited financial report statements. And if you have any further discussion, then I'd be happy to have that by way of a motion or for information now that we've had the presentation from our auditor.
I'll move that we accept the financials.
Thank you, Councillor Wilbur. Second, Councillor Earl. Any Councillor, all those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you. 8.2, we have report number 22045 from the Director of Infrastructure regarding the advanced metering infrastructure system for water meter reading. Councillor Javetkov.
I'll move the recommendation that report number 22-045 from the Director of Infrastructure Advanced Metering Infrastructure System for water meter reading be received. Further, that Council direct staff to put forward a budget request for the 2023 budget for the initial installation cost and ongoing operational costs associated with implementing an advanced metering infrastructure water meter system.
Thank you, Councillor. Second, Councillor Earl. Discussion. Councillor Earl.
Oh, no.
Sorry. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you. 8.3, we have report number 22046 from the Chief Financial Officer regarding our statement of financial information as the Sophie report. Councillor Dober.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll move that report number 22-046 from the Chief Financial Officer regarding 2021 Statement of Financial Information be received. Further, that Council approve the City of Dawson Creek 2021 Statement of Financial Information as presented.
Thank you. Second, Councillor Kemp. Any discussion, any questions for our CFO? Again, I think honestly, when I reviewed the report, and the two things that really popped for me was the change in net financial assets in terms of going in a positive last year where we hadn't achieved that in I don't know how many years. And that always kind of resonated for me with Flavia when she made that comment. And then you see this year we added that another $8 or $10 million into that. And then the accumulated surplus, the real difference that we're seeing in terms of reduction in expenses, reduction in that, and the increase in those revenue positions have really changing that direction for us. And obviously that direction that this council set in terms of moving the Peace River Agreement funds into capital and off of operating as a very, very strong statement in terms of our schedule of financial information this year. And so I really, congratulations to staff, congratulations to council for that work, because it's been hard work, it's been tough work, but very proud of the accomplishments today.
Can I ask a question?
Go ahead, Councillor Parslow.
We heard from the auditor that in 2023, the capital asset situation would be reported for the first time. So how would that impact this, let's call it this additional financial information? This is a question to Terry.
Through your worship, you're asking how it'll affect our statement of financial information or our financial statements?
Yes. Will it? Yes. How will the interplay of our capital asset replacement situation impact this? Will it be a standalone, or will this affect some other areas within this statement of financial information?
It'll mainly affect your balance sheet because it'll be retirement obligations. So we'll have to go through our whole asset registry and decide what assets we feel would require a retirement obligation. So it would be a liability on our balance sheet. So we would still be in a positive net asset position. I would not think that it would change to a net debt position.
Even though we might have liabilities in the millions of dollars?
I don't think that you'll have liabilities in the millions of dollars.
For capital assets? So I must be misunderstanding.
So
are we not, in our capital asset management plan, we'll begin to set aside money for the replacement of assets when they need replacing.
So I think you may be talking about reserves for replacing capital assets, and I'm talking about the asset retirement obligation standard that will be in effect for next year's statements. So am I confused?
I know. I think I'm confused.
That's fair.
I'll belabor it now. I'll talk about it and seek clarification one-on-one. Thank you.
And I think, honestly, I think that might be a really good discussion for us at some future, maybe a committee of the whole meeting, where we talk about that entire tangible capital asset plan, how and what we start to do to build that plan for the future, or council will be, in terms of ensuring that the plan is in place to adequately prepare for the, as I think Councillor Parslow is referring to, if I understand his question, the Encana Event Center is going to need to be, or the Ovintiv Event Center is going to need to be replaced in 30 years or 50 years. And what's the plan for being financially ready to be able to either retire or demolish that facility or rebuild it? And you better have a tangible capital asset plan in place to do that.
Yeah, through your worship, you're exactly right, and that's what the asset management plan will come in. And the asset retirement obligation is more an environmental standard. So buildings, built before 1989, I think, there would be a probability that they would have asbestos. So we just need to look at it as an estimate and put it as a liability on our balance sheet. So, but as for, you're absolutely right. 30 years from now, replacing all our assets, that'll be a main focus of the asset management plan.
Thank you. Like I said, that might be something we maybe want to pop in and start to have that as a plan for a committee of the whole meeting at some point, to be able to just have council engage in that discussion and have more clarity and understanding of it. Very worthwhile. Thank you. Any further discussion? Any further comments? All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you. Item 9 is our bylaws. We have a tax rate bylaw number 4525-2022 for adoption. Councillor Kemp move, second Councillor Dober. Discussion. Councillor Dober.
Thank you. I don't know if this is the right time. I just, this just made me think of something when I was driving around town the other day. There's a lot of empty lots around town, and then we had somebody this morning talking about the old Wildcat lot. Like, all those ones that are on 8th Street and stuff, are they like city owned? Like the fenced ones, like where the old Max used to be, and the one by the promo shop? Sorry, this is
good.
Way off topic.
Blair will answer it because we've all had that frustration.
No, through you, your worship, we do own the ones downtown, the old Dawson Hotel site, the Wildcat Video site, and the old Windsor Hotel. The ones you're referring to, and I'll speak to 8th Street, are owned by the oil companies. And it's been an issue not just for our city, but across. These are lots that probably have contamination within them. So these oil companies prefer to fence them off and let them sit there versus clean them up and try and sell them for our, to improve our community. We are looking at what we can do to force the hand of these companies. I don't think it's asking too much that they clean them up and don't leave a fenced area that, to be honest, the fences are old and decrepit. It is not the greatest site. And again, not just Dawson Creek faces that, but downtown Vancouver wouldn't see this because of the value of the land. So they go in and clean them up. But I think they have an obligation to every community in this country when they leave their lots like that. So.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Sorry for bringing
Thank
it
you.
up.
No, that's good. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you. 9.2, we have report number 22043 from the corporate officer regarding bylaw notice enforcement amendment, bylaw 4530, for consideration of first 3 readings. This is just a cleanup that we needed to do. And so Councillor Dober move, second Councillor Kemp. Discussion. Do you want to give an update quickly on what that cleanup was, Brenda or Blair, for council?
Yes, sure. Through your worship, there was amendments done in a previous amendment of the bylaw that included the word dog. So that restricts any declaration of a nuisance animal. It was incorrectly worded as nuisance dog animal. So we're just removing the word dog, and now we can have our bylaw enforcement officers declare nuisance animals to either cats or dogs.
Okay, thank you. You ready for the question, council? All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you. So we're at the end of our business meeting and now before mayor's business. So we'll take a 5-minute break now to allow for bit of a break, and we'll be back in 5 or 10 minutes. Our next order of business is mayor's business, and got a couple items that I wanted to update council on. First, an initiative, Connected Communities, is I had a call from Mayor Clayton in Grand Prairie, and she reached out to myself and Mayor Ackerman, and really we had a conversation about 3 weeks ago in regards to, is there a way for us as the core communities in Northeast BC, if I can use that term, and Northwest Alberta, to be able to put together a bit of a organization where the three of us begin to facilitate some work together in the lobbying of the federal government primarily, but also our respective provincial governments in regards to economic initiatives and issues that sometimes we face and work on together. And so Mayor Clayton had connected with Global Public Affairs as a organization that provides that support, and so they've come back with a proposal over a 6-month to 12-month initiative, and I just received it. So I'll forward that on to council, and we can have some discussion about it. And Mayor Ackerman and Mayor Clayton and I haven't had any further conversation since I've had their proposal, but I really like the idea of us beginning to collaborate on initiatives where we can gain the strength of the region, both Northwest Alberta and Northeast BC, in regards to some federal stuff that goes on, as well as sometimes common provincial initiatives. So that's what that refers to. The Desoto First Nations is obviously in our community that we've worked very closely with, I think, over the years in various initiatives with Desoto. But they've also signed an MOU, a Memorandum of Understanding, and forged a relationship with the Peace River Regional District, as is happening with a number of the Treaty 8 communities and the Peace River Regional District. And certainly at the Regional District, we're doing a bunch of work there in regards to what they call cultural safety, but also forging relationships. And next week we have a similar session with the Doig River First Nations and looking to forge the MOU with them. I know Fort St. John's got a urban reserve policy now and are working away at developing land and property and initiatives and opportunities. So I think it's very positive for us in terms of how we're moving forward with forging these relationships, not only by individual communities, but also at the regional level. I got asked by a group of parents who are homeschooling their children, and so I met with them at the Kiwanis Performing Arts Center, and there's probably 40 kids and parents there that day, and we spent an hour talking about local government and what we do in the city and how council functions and the role of council and the work that we do. And so it's just always a very, very cool opportunity to get to the kids, and we get to the school kids a lot. But I really enjoyed meeting with the kids from the homeschooling community and from all over the region. And a new family that have settled here, a pastor and his a wife and 3 children, and bought a home out at Fellers Heights, and are ecstatic about moving to and around Dawson Creek. So it's really, really good. We continue to meet with Dr. Magna Duplessis, and the Primary Care Network, and the Southeast Division of Family Practice are established themselves within Dawson Creek, Chatwin, and Tumbler Ridge, and building this primary care model. Thank you to Councillor Earl for attending that meeting the other day, where it was an introduction by Dr. Sharma and our new OBGYN, our new general surgeon. We got, I think, 4 or 5 new family practice physicians, and so they've done a great job of building this model of primary care, and we just continue to work monthly with them in building that model of a strong primary care network in our community and region. Peace River Regional District has been working over the last couple of years to build we call it the Fiber Connectivity Group, and it's really about broadband internet and mobility for rural and remote communities, and how and what can be done to help build that work that is required to help increase connectivity for people who live in rural, remote the region. And so we've also engaged with First Nations as well as industry, and we had a really good meeting at the regional district about 3 weeks ago, and the folks from all of the Northeast BC were in attendance, the rural folks, the folks from most of the First Nations communities, even as far out as Seke, Dene, and the Quadacha folks on the west side of Williston Lake. And, you think about how important technology is and access to connectivity, and there are those folks out there, and they have virtually zero connectivity, both in terms of Wi-Fi or cellular service. So access is so important, and we realize the more you connect into telehealth, education, economic opportunities are all important around connectivity. So the work that we're doing at the regional district, I think, in supporting that is very important to our region, and we continue to build those opportunities and look for ways to build the stronger connectivity. We talked briefly about childcare, so I just won't talk much about that. Arden Smith has taken on the role with the organization who are building a childcare action plan, and I spent an hour with Arden, giving her a bunch of the detail that I had developed over the last couple of years, and just continue to hope that we see a strong childcare model built for our community, because it is so important in terms of every aspect of healthcare, education, economy. The last 2 weeks I was away. I was at the First Nations. 2 weeks ago I was in Vancouver at the First Nations Major Projects Coalition meeting, 2 days. And so it's evident in terms of how strong the work is that's going on across Canada and by this organization, the new Major Projects Coalition, and really working to help support initiatives around building initiatives that help First Nations communities and other communities, primarily with economic development initiatives, and provide opportunities for First Nations to get equity positions or partnerships with companies. There was a guest speaker at this event, and he also spoke at the BC Council of Forest Industries that I really want to emphasize this morning. RJ Johnson, he's a PhD consultant out of Washington, D.C., and he talked about the conflict today in Russia and Ukraine and the impact that's having on the energy sector and supply globally, and particularly where now you've got major companies like Shell and Total and others that are pulling out of Russia, and countries backing out of supply agreements with them for their oil and natural gas. And so Europe is really facing a significant issue with regards to supply. And so this speaker said he believes that the U.S., who have built a LNG capacity down in the Gulf Coast, are currently producing about 12 billion cubic feet of natural gas in the liquefied natural gas today and supplying it globally. And so it's an example, a comparative LNG Canada on the West Coast in Kitimat, when it gets operational, will be 2 billion cubic feet. He says that the U.S. has the capacity, he believes, to go to 20 to 25 billion cubic feet of liquefied natural gas. He believes those existing facilities have the ability to increase their production to that level. But he said what they won't have then is the capability to be able to backstop the required supply of natural gas into both the domestic market, so in the U.S. and Canada, that those suppliers currently provide in natural gas, as well as ramp up to doubling the production of liquefied natural gas. And he said it's going to be a huge opportunity for Canada, because Canadian suppliers are now going to be looking to backstop that supply of natural gas into the U.S. for that purpose. And so, as an example, British Columbia today produces about 6 billion cubic feet of natural gas per day, and the LNG Canada in 2 years will open up another 2 billion cubic feet of gas. But potentially you're talking about doubling the potential of the production of natural gas into the domestic supply chain. Prices are very strong, and so I think it speaks very strongly to the opportunities that are going to be created by and for the Montney asset as well as the Duvernay in Alberta. But that will be very, very good in terms of seeing that supply and activity increase for our community and our region. And it was really, really a good conference to attend, and it was things like that when you attend and you get the opportunity to hear that, you realize how important that will be for us to be able to make sure our community gets that understanding. And the BC Council of Forest Industry Convention followed the next 3 days, and I attended that, and Mr. Johnson spoke at that. It was also really good to see the forest sector there, and I think the forest industry right now is really in that world of still struggling with the softwood lumber agreement with the U.S. and supply of fiber and all of those things. So it's in a tough industry right now, but I think there's optimism with everybody in terms of prices and all that stuff. So we look forward to seeing that continue to grow. And the LP guys were there, and obviously we're optimistic for them to have a strong future. I want to talk also because I was in Calgary last week before NCLGA, and I spent 2 days in Calgary and met with President and CEO of Verizon and Cathario Solutions, Dick Brown, and the CEO of Mitsubishi, which are the partners with Ovintiv and their Diamond Gas partnership, and then met with Chief Operating Officer of ARC and the VPs of North River, and it was really about just talking about what they're doing and how they're doing and the impacts to us. Cathario Solutions, Dick Brown, who used to own Ferris, has just started a new company. It's a technology company dealing with emissions, and it's a process where he uses liquid nitrogen to put into a well site, and they use the liquid nitrogen to mix with the methane, which completely reduces the greenhouse gas emissions that are emitted from that methane emission. And so I absolutely am the last person to be explaining the technology of well site emissions. But what happens is when the well site is operating and functioning, it releases fluids, water, other stuff that have to be released, and when they release those, they have to shut the well down, and when they do that, those built-up methane emissions have to be released. And so the process that they've developed is that the liquid nitrogen will consume the methane, and so if a normal release, and an analogy was 100 tons of methane were released, this new process would reduce it down to the equivalent of 2 tons of GHGs. So it's now been picked up in the States through some pilot stuff that they were able to get. Ovintiv have picked it up in the States, and now they're piloting it in Alberta, as well as Cenovus, and they've got some grant money. Anyway, it's going to create economic opportunities here because of their Ferris site here with liquid nitrogen, as well as the opportunity of being able to really bring in a really innovative, creative process to deal with emissions will be a big, big deal to the province. So we're going to go to work and help support that in any way we can. And the last item for me is on the North Central Local Government Association held the AGM and convention. Thank you to Councillor Wilbur, Councillor Earl, Councillor Kemp, who were able to attend as our representatives, and Councillor Wilbur was there for the resolutions. I got to some of them. But overall, it was very, very well done. Jody Wilson-Raybould was the keynote speaker on Wednesday night, and very well received, very strong, articulate, obviously very, very skilled lady, and it was a real pleasure to sit there. And overall, it was just really strong to be able to engage back in person at the convention with people of like positions that we all deal with, and deal with the business of it. And it was a very, very positive convention. And my hat goes off to the NCLGA for putting on the AGM, and the City of Fort St. John for hosting up there. And the reins were passed over to the City of Dawson Creek and the District of Chetwynd, as we'll be taking over the responsibility of hosting the NCLGA convention next October. or whenever it is, November, I'm not even sure. I'm less March. and I did make one announcement. I did provide one clarification because there was all kinds of rumor and speculation going on that I had announced I was not seeking re-election in October. And I said, I want to just clarify one point. I am not seeking re-election as the mayor of the city of Dawson Creek. But I did announce my candidacy to run for the mayor of the city of Fort St. John in the next election. And immediately Mayor Ackerman got up and announced she was running for the mayor of Dawson Creek. It was a lot of fun, and we had a really good time at the convention, and we're looking forward to being able to have the host of the convention once again in 2023 in Dawson Creek, as we did in 2016. I think it's probably one of the biggest conventions in terms of attendees at the event center. So great job, everybody, and good luck to the 2023 organizing committee. I'll stop there. Any questions? Anybody? Good luck in Fort St. John. It was funny. It was good. So item 10.2, we have a request from Jamie Maxwell on the Triathlon, and just for clarifications, it's barricades, it's some garbage cans, and closing off the swimming pool parking lot so that they have the ability to stage their event.
And the soccer.
Oh, and the soccer parking lot. Shante? Sorry.
Through your worship, that's correct. So the soccer parking lot, as well as the pool parking lot, and 60 barricades from the city, and then 6 barrel garbage cans is in the application form
Okay, thank you.
to be delivered. And that's where the cost is. The cost is for the delivery, not the use of the barricades, for the delivery of the barricades. And we'll have to, of course, at that point, determine how many barricades we have, because sometimes we lose some, they break or whatever throughout the time, but.
Okay, thank you. Council? Do I have a move? Somebody want to move a motion? Councillor Dober? Councillor Parslow is moving the motion.
Second.
That we provide that support. Seconded by Councillor Dober. Discussion? All those in, sorry?
Just one quick question.
Yeah.
Because the barricades, like say we only had 20 or whatever, like would we then buy 40 more, or is this just supply what we have?
Through your worship, majority of the barricades are owned through, are looked after through Public Works, but as well as there also is another 60 that they're using too through Ovintiv Center. So we'll maintain, we have to maintain a certain amount because we're going to be needing to use them for the fall fair as well.
Okay.
So I think through that few 3 weeks, all the barricades that we have will be in use.
Thank you. Any further comments? All those in favor? Sorry, go ahead, Councillor Parslow.
Just one, I wonder if staff or other members of council have the same query that I have, that why an event, a regional event like the triathlon, does not get NDIT funding. I mean, I think we get funding for the fall fair, we get funding for the car rally. I just find it strange that sporting events seemingly don't get them, but other, what I would call sporting events, because the fall fair involves a rodeo, and the car rally has some elements of a sporting event. And any comments from staff about that, from their knowledge of NDIT?
Through you, Your Worship, this would be one where they would apply. We wouldn't apply on their behalf.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so I don't have any further knowledge of any applications, or as Jamie had indicated, they had gone through it before and found out that they were told that they weren't eligible. So this is something I think collectively we could work on. Councillor Parslow, I know you sit on the board and we're willing to take that on. So if they would fit in somewhere, I think it would be appropriate that we receive the money, but we've had nothing to do as far as an administrative staff arm of the city with this at this point.
Oh, no, and I wouldn't expect you to. It's just wondered if anybody else had any other perspectives on this issue.
Yeah, I think it's worthwhile for us to follow up for sure for them, as you've indicated, Councillor Parslow. And I'm going to follow it up through the regional district. We have a regional district as a grant writer, And I wouldn't mind seeing if I can get the staff over there just to do a follow-up as well to ensure that qualification process. If there's an opportunity that there may be a grant that they might qualify for, then we'll get to Jamie and ensure that they connect them, and I'll help them do that, connect with the grant writer through the regional district and see that they get that grant application in.
Good.
Thank you for that. Did we call the question? Did we vote on that? All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you. Shaylee, we're going to do 10.3, which is dealing with the Chamber of Commerce request.
All right, I'll hang up.
Thank you. So we had Kathleen from the Chamber here requesting support for the closure of 10th Street and Alaska Avenue from 9 to noon on the day of the fair, August 12th. And we would provide barricades to close it off, as we would anyway. We'd be there because we're doing the fair, right? So, and the garbage cans. Do we do the garbage cans normally or no?
I don't believe we do the garbage cans, Your Worship, but there's that as well as some possible electrical, whether it's cables to get out for some of these booths.
Council?
Mayor, I would be prepared to make this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Parslow. Second, Councillor Dover. All discussion.
With one correction, can we correct 104th Street to 104th Avenue?
For sure. Thank you. Councillor Earl?
Thank you, Your Worship. I think it was you that mentioned, but I agree. We do want to make sure. We're going to commit to it now, I guess, presuming we vote to approve. But I do want to make sure whether we or the Chamber of Commerce does their due diligence with reaching out to any potentially impacted businesses in the downtown core to get buy-in, or at the very least let them know what's happening. I think it's at the very least we can do. So I want to make sure that happens.
For sure. And I think the aspect of those businesses getting closed off, when I understand now it's on the day of the parade at that 10 to 12, those businesses are impacted because of the parade route. Those streets get closed off anyway, so that it's not going to be anything different than what normally happens during the parade, because 10th Street at 102nd gets closed off both ways, and 10th Street at 103rd gets closed off as the parade winds its way around there, right? So I don't think it'll have any different impact on them as would normally.
I don't imagine that's the case.
Sorry. There you go.
I don't imagine that's the case, but I'm just thinking back to my event center days, and my old general manager, Ryan McIver's number one rule when he brought us into his office on our first day was no surprises. So I think it would be worth, whether it's just handing out, going door to door, letting them know what's happening so that there's no confusion. I think one of those ounce of prevention things.
Okay. Blair?
Your Worship, on that, I think that would be the duty of the Chamber of Commerce, not the city. I don't think we would want to take that on. The other one that I am aware of over the years, I think it's St. Mark's also does a breakfast on this morning, so maybe they have worked together on this and there's going to be 2 breakfasts, or I'm just not sure. I didn't hear anything in the presentation on that, so.
Thank you. Councillor Dover? Good. Thank you. Ready for the question? All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. So we'll get Shaylee back on.
Announcing participant,
Shaylee.
Thank you, Councillor Wilbur. And so we're now on to item 11, the Chief Administrative Officer's operational update. That's a
mouthful, yes. Well, thank you, Your Worship. Not a lot to report on today. Obviously, I think it's fair to say everybody recognizes the moisture we've been receiving lately in either snow or rain. Just to report, obviously, the new bridge on 102nd seems to be working well. The flow of water through the city with the amount of moisture we had has, I think, done very well as far as the work that we've done. There was some concerns apparently expressed. I'm not on social media that the golf course is taking a bit of a hit with water. No amount of work that we do in the city can prevent the golf course that we have from sustaining some water because they sit in a floodplain. That is not something the city of Dawson Creek can change, or different culverts or drainage. There is going to be challenges with the golf course at times. But, you know, my main focus here today was to talk about the water flow through the city of Dawson Creek. It seems to be much improved at this point with the amount of moisture we've seen. So quite happy to see that, and that is even at the point that the 8th Street Bridge is under construction and not a full permanent flow through there yet. So good news there. And that is about it, Your Worship, unless there was any questions.
Thank you, Blair. Councillor Earl?
Thank you, Your Worship. I know we have, just at the last meeting, I believe, finished the tendering of the 3 main roadworks projects we've got planned for the year. With the ongoing inclement weather, and we're into May and we've got snow on the ground still, at what point do we start to worry about our timelines? I really, yeah, but that all has to dry out before people can get equipment in there. So, well, yeah, halfway through August has been the historical, shovels in the ground, but. Still waiting for pipe.
Oh, sorry, Kevin.
So through Your Worship, yeah, I mean, better to get this weather now before we start digging into the roads. Because then it creates even more havoc for us. So normally road construction, as far as when we start actually digging either services or rebuilding roads, it's usually after May long anyways. That's usually when all the frost is completely out of the ground. So hopefully by then we're in a drying trend. And Councillor Dober did mention that a lot of our pipe doesn't show up until the 1st of June anyways. So so far we're on track.
Thank you. Anything further? Thank you, Blair. So now on to diary. Anything?
Nothing new to report, Your Worship.
Consent calendar, we have nothing. 22 strategic priorities, we're up to date and current. Media. So a motion to recess to closed, and the resolution, we have agenda items 4.1, our section 90 are minutes. Agenda item 2.1 is section 91L, discussions with municipal officers and employees respecting municipal objectives. Agenda items 6.1, 8.1, and 8.2 are under section 91K, negotiations or related discussions. And agenda item 8.3 is section 90LC, which is labor relations or other employee relations. Motion, please, to go back to close. Councillor Kemp, Councillor Earl, all those in favor, opposed, carried. Thank you. So we'll take a 10-minute break and we'll be back, or even less, and we'll be back into our close. Thank you.